I'd like to call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Councilor Robinson?
Here.
Councilor Getchia?
Here.
Councilor Rourke?
Here.
3 present.
Thank you. We called this special event subcommittee for the purpose of discussing the potential at looking at music and mural festival in hopefully Cambodia Town in August 2024. And this is the first of hopefully many discussions, bringing in community partners to see if we can really get this going. I figured I would start off the meeting by showing a clip of one of the artists that came down and painted Middlesex Community College. I've been in contact with him, and he would love the opportunity to come back with 4 or 5 other muralists from Cambodia to work in Cambodia Town with some musical acts. And as people are aware, the city has made major investments over the past year and a half towards arts, culture, and public art. And so I think this kind of fits right in line with what we've been discussing right along. I know I see representatives with Mosaic, Greater Lowell Community Foundation, Case is here. You know, all of these groups have been staples with bringing this art forward and kind of addressing the experienced Lowell mentality. So if LTC can play that clip so we can show. So this is a festival that the artist is doing himself in Cambodia currently. And it goes to show, like, he's organized events in Cambodia where the murals and all the proceeds are going to nonprofits over there. But the scale of it, I mean, so many communities have arts, culture, music festivals that are a major draw and people anticipate annually. This may be the first of something that we can create. I think time's on our side with this, but it's going to take a lot of legwork. The thought is, first, trying to secure some businesses in Cambodia Town that might be willing to donate wall space, because I know that is a big component. It's tying into the culture. It's bringing artists from Cambodia. The artist himself was fortunate to come during the time he was painting. He got to attend the water festival that we were hosting, and he still to this day basically says he felt like he was home, and he would love to see some of the other muralists that have never left the country come over and see how strong of a connection Lowell has to Cambodia, and just experience Lowell like we've been trying to advocate for, while pretty much building a platform to put the talents on display and to invite guests and residents out to enjoy what they're offering. So I'll open this discussion up to my colleagues or to the members of the public if anyone would like to speak on this.
Hi, counselors. My name is Jessica O'Hearn. I'm the director of Mosaic Lowell. As you may know, Mosaic was formed by leaders across the city recognizing arts and culture as an economic driver for Lowell, and recognizing the great need for support of all the wonderful events and programs and individual creatives that call Lowell home. And we're so excited to see the formation of this committee, especially like committed to cultural events and concepts like celebrating Southeast Asian arts and culture. Mosaic's role supporting arts and culture events in Lowell has continued to grow. So I'm here today to share what we've learned and how it's relevant to this discussing this event, and some actions that I would like this committee to consider when discussing specific events like this. So for the past 7 months, Mosaic has worked in collaboration with the city's case office and the Greater Lowell Community Chamber to focus exclusively on marketing of festivals and events across the city. Branding of like festival seasons that include both the city-run events and the plethora of events run by organizations and volunteers. So as you know, we have over 30 festivals and events in our city each year celebrating different cultures, the vibrancy of our neighborhoods, and in many cases acting as cultural preservation. And as we've done this work and communicated directly with many event organizers, we've identified needs that go beyond marketing. That includes support for fundraising, planning, understanding the permitting process and required city services, and resources for food, entertainment, translations, and more. Our work also extends beyond the city, as I recently testified at a state hearing to support the Cultural Equity and Tourism Act, which would establish a statewide grant program to support tourism marketing and promotional expenses for arts and cultural organizations and cultural events, of which we have many that would be eligible for that funding. Just last night, in collaboration with DIY Lowell, we hosted the first roundtable discussion for event and festival organizers. This had 37 individuals from across sectors present. It was an opportunity for planners to voice their challenges, and it became clear that everyone is very interested in sharing resources and collaboration that can help support the success of all of the events that happen citywide. What's been made really clear through all of our listening is that the community, like collaborations between organizations, residents, event planners, and our district representatives is absolutely vital to the success of any event. Most importantly, I'm referring to collaboration in the planning process. So we have some time, we're thinking ahead, looking at next summer. It's sort of referring to collaboration not just in who's invited to table at those events, but in the planning process. So I would encourage this committee to ensure that the planners for this specific event would include members of the Southeast Asian community, the Cambodian community, the Cambodian Mutual Assistance Association, and leaders within our arts and culture community. When the community has buy-in, is involved with selecting dates, planning programming from early phases in the planning process, you can ensure that this isn't just an event created for people, but with them. And then you have stakeholders. So that collaboration is key to the success of an event, opens up potential for sustainability, and creating something that residents and businesses can rely on, especially when you're thinking about something that would happen annually. Another area of focus that I wanted to bring up, that we've been supporting the public art process here in the city. We've learned, public art is going to be an exciting component of this event. Our recent collaboration with the Acres TDI Fellow has produced 6 new public art projects this fall. And through this process, we've learned that support is needed for documentation and maintenance of the work across the city. All of these new works of public art are so exciting, but just as important as the execution is the maintenance and longevity of those works. The case office has taken a really progressive step of creating a maintenance fund for all city-owned public art, but there are many public artworks that are not city-owned. So recognizing this need, we have established a maintenance fund for public art in the city at the Greater Lowell Community Foundation. It started with funds through mass development through that Art in the Acre project. And we're encouraging any group, organization, or artist that to invest a percentage of their project budget to that fund to make sure that there's funds available for any needed repairs or restoration in the future. This is a step being taken by cities and towns across the country as we see a desire for public art grow at a pretty rapid pace, and we've seen how quickly things are going up here. And actually within the Massachusetts 23-24 Creative Sector Agenda is a bill to establish a program for local art and community engagement. It's called the PLACE Act. This would allocate a percentage of construction costs on any Commonwealth-owned property and public funding granted to new construction projects exceeding $200K for a public art fund. The fund would be used to create and maintain public art in Massachusetts and would codify the process for commissioning public art, making it easier for cities and towns to engage their residents in developing relevant and inclusive public art. We can be a leader in this by following best practices and putting aside 10% of project costs for maintenance. So that would be considering if there's multiple murals, putting together all of those funds. And I hope this can be a consideration with any event like this incorporating public art. I look forward to working with this committee on developing exciting concepts for events and also identifying challenges and working towards solutions for supporting all the existing events in the city. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. You raise a ton of great points, and I couldn't agree more. And first, one of the most important things I think with an event that we're discussing here is you hit it right on the head: buy-in from the community. And I actually invited Mr. Sotia to come if he was available with CMAA, because I think that's an integral piece of this. This is the approach I'm looking at least for the subcommittee in the city with CASE, and not so much Mosaic. I think Mosaic is more of like community boots on the ground, like nitty gritty, day in and day out, turning the wrench partner in all of this. But I think as far as the city's responsibility is a support system. It's kind of, we're bringing ideas forward, and if there's buy-in from the community, which is most important, first and foremost, now it's a matter of how do we build that stage to allow the community and the partners to really display what this is going to look like. And so I'm very thankful so Mr. Sotia came, so that way, I mean, if you'd like to maybe speak on this, again, we talked briefly on this is a potential opportunity to kind of showcase murals and music. And historically, it seems like in Lowell, we've focused on more the traditional route with the arts and culture in the Southeast Asian community. And I think this is kind of an opportunity to showcase some of the non-traditional forms that are really starting to break ground, especially even in Cambodia.
Good evening, City Councilor. Thank you. I'm actually was not prepared to speak, but in terms, I wanted to more get to know what the about the subcommittee and all that. I just want a couple of things. One, I want to go back to Jessica's point about the last point about the maintenance and management. I think whatever the plans for renovation and plan to put a certain structure and whatnot, there has to be some sort of maintenance and management of whatever that is in general, because I think it's very important, because oftentimes you see that some nice structure put a certain place and then it's kind of get neglected. That becomes I think it's not the best way to put something up. On a matter of doing events, I think, and I don't think we all have a solution necessary, but there are a lot of events going on in the city of Lowell, and makes all of us, CMA and among other neighborhood groups and whatnot, stretch on the bandwidth. So I wonder if there's some way, maybe through the city, through CASE, through Mosaic and Lowell, or other entity, we can kind of make sure that these events throughout the year are being not recognized, but supported, and also not so that it's not it doesn't happen on the same day or evenings and whatnot, because we were actually at I was actually at a meeting. We were talking about that this particular topic in terms of there are a lot of things going on. There are different individuals who put out there the different activity that's happened within the city, and there should be a centralized place, comprehensive list of what's going on in the city in terms of special events, right? So because we want first to maximize the participation, whatever the events may be, so that it's across town, across neighborhood, what have you. In terms of you approached me, Councilor Robinson, you approached me about the mural thing, and that is something that we have been, thinking. I know we have talked to the community, the businesses, and also the Clemente Park folks in terms of wanting to see something from a small thing to the mural on a building within the Cambodia town area. And other places if people find that there's available structure. So that is something that we looking to and exploring ways to make it happen. One of the simple things that I think with the discussion within the Clemente Park master plan was to do some sort of artwork along the retainer wall on Middlesex Street across from the park, so that it's pleasing, so that it's inviting and visually the aesthetic of it looks very nice, and it gives the feeling of that you're in the neighborhood, in this case Cambodia Town or whatever the neighborhood may be. So that is something that we hope to continue to have the conversation and see if there's a opportunity to make it happen on a small and larger scales.
Greatly appreciated. Thank you. And I would just like to mention, I actually did file a motion. What brought it to light was the mural over at Athenian Corner. We've had to have touched up just because of the condition of the building. And I did file a motion, and I believe the manager was very receptive to looking at establishing some kind of maintenance fund. Where that funding comes from is still, I believe, being ironed out, and I think there was the implementation of one, maybe through ARPA. But I think that, I agree, I think that's something we're gonna have to be very mindful of, because the more art projects, whether it's sculpture, public art, any of that, there is gonna have to be a budget that, for maintenance specifically for these projects. And as you mentioned, even if it's not city-owned property, I think we might want to look at how do we at least assist business owners that are willing to step up and donate wall space for art pieces that the public and the community is going to be able to enjoy for the maintenance of it. Again, I think that is a key component in all this, and I thank you for bringing that forward.
Yeah, thank you, Councilor. I can speak to that a little bit. This is the first year that through the council's budget process this year, we have added for the first time a $50,000 fund that's established through regular city financing specifically for the maintenance of city-owned public art pieces. We know that we can't necessarily at this point extend the resources to other things that aren't city-owned, but in part of our new collaboration with Mosaic Lowell, they've really jumped on board and built on that. And I want Jess to sort of talk about the new fund that they're launching in collaboration with GLCF that'll also be sort of designed specifically for that purpose.
Sure. So, so the fund that we're starting is actually being started with when we worked with Mass Development's TDI fellow Nate Robertson on Art in the Acre, which is 6 public art projects. Based on the budget for those projects, 10% was taken to start this fund. So right now, that's it's sitting in there to go towards any restoration, needed repairs for a 1-year period for those projects, and then that money will be able to just, if nothing's needed, it will sit there. So what we're hoping is, as new projects are proposed, that it's considered that 10% of those project budget would go towards that fund, so that maintenance, there can be a fund that exists for maintenance, and then funds could be requested and used as needed. I mean, it's a big job ahead of us because there's a lot of pieces that haven't been restored, it's maybe even haven't been documented, so that's like on our radar, something we want to sort of chip away at, and need to have a plan for how those funds are requested. But starting to do that now, as there's so, right now, I think there's how many public art projects in 24? 12?
24, there'll be
10.
12 new ones coming on.
Yeah, that's, so it is like every year we're having more and more people are really excited about it. So I think if we're starting to think about, you know, putting aside those funds, encouraging folks to do that when it's on, especially when it's on private property, that would really help so it can all be maintained. Yeah.
Yeah, so Case and Mosaic are really working sort of in lockstep with this and making sure that as we're bringing new projects online, we're preparing for their maintenance moving forward and so that they're maintained. We're also fortunate in the world that the sort of mural technology has improved a lot, for lack of a better word, and there are paints now that are much more durable. Most of the new artwork that is going up now are including things like anti-graffiti clear coats that actually cover the mural and help protect them from things like graffiti and things like that. So there really is a multi-pronged approach that's going on right now between city funding, outside funds, as well as sort of a technology base to make sure these projects are maintained. And we're really doing a point of making sure artists are thinking about that, as well as project producers that are going into it, right, and thinking about that 5, 10, 20 years down the road.
Excellent. And so does this ballpark window, off the top of your head, does that seem like a time frame that something like this could occur at some point in August 2024? I mean, ideally, speaking to the artists, they had questions asking, and I'll try to get them in on a future subcommittee meeting via Zoom. They had questions to work with the organization to see potentially could they do a music and mural festival leading up to the water festival. That way, you have the guests already coming to town, maybe they come a couple days earlier, and there's something to celebrate along the way leading up to, with the culmination of it being the water festival. And that was something that they threw out there. That was something that they kind of questioned. And as CMAA's director mentioned, bandwidth, I know that's a crazy time. I'd also like to explore the feasibility potentially of, is this a project maybe we look to bringing in a project manager on for something, a large music and mural festival, so that way we're not spreading all these organizations too thin with everything else going on, where we have one person as pretty much the quarterback of this project that would be able to be, you know, the lead on this, and all the other people just, you know, feed into that lead, so that way, you know, business as usual for CMAA leading up to the water festival, and it's not pulling from anything that they needed to do as they've been doing for quite some time. So I think that's something worth considering as well, and maybe getting some costs as to what are we up against if we did try to go that direction, to bring in maybe a director of this kind of programming. Because the potential to do a music and mural festival, there's a lot of moving pieces, as we're all aware. And so, I mean, just the logistics alone, I think the sooner rather than later that we can come up with, is this going to make sense to bring in somebody? Then we can start dissecting what's going to be required on the city's end, from this organization's end, from that organization's end, almost assigned roles at that point. But with that quarterback kind of delegating what's needed to pull this off.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, Council. And I think, unfortunately, she was going to be here tonight but couldn't be here. But LZ Nunn from Project Learning Art Up Lowell was planning to be here tonight. They're really, Art Up Lowell now is really the, I would say, the gold standard here in Lowell in terms of what producing large sort of scale mural installations like this is and how to do it. And they have the expertise to do it. I know that this is a project that they're interested in looking at how it sort of weaves into their 2024 plan with the art and culture trail that they're working on, and sort of the projects that they're slated for. What they've learned is the summer is hard for them because they really like a strong student commitment, and figuring out how to do that in the summer is a challenge. I wouldn't say it's unrealistic for a project of this scale to be planned out and implemented between now and August. It's definitely a challenge. First and foremost, I think putting together that lead steering committee who will be responsible for the fundraising side of it, the engagement side of it, especially with the Cambodian town businesses, and finding out where those walls are that we're looking at, exactly how many we're looking at, will be key to get done probably will need to be done as early as December, January to make that happen, and figuring out what the budget for this looks like. Roughly, if we're talking about 4 to 5 mid-sized murals plus a festival event, this could very easily be $100,000 festival to pull this off. And raising those kind of sponsorships in Lowell can be a challenge. So the earlier our committee is formed, who's really focused on that side of it, will make a big difference. To your point, if we were able to engage a real festival organizer who has experience both in large art installation projects as well as sort of an overall festival atmosphere, that's a game changer in terms of making these events happen. And we certainly have contacts who are really versed at doing that. But there is a financial commitment involved in that as well, right? When you're bringing on sort of a coordinator to do that kind of role. But it's definitely something that CASE advocates for when the resources are available, because it makes a huge difference when you've got somebody who's solely sort of dedicated on moving that project along.
Thank you. So I guess I'd like to ask, if possible, could we get at least maybe some prices together for a project manager for something along this line, so at least we know what we're up against cost-wise with that component of it? Also, what do you recommend as far as putting together a committee? A steering committee on this?
So I would have preferred not to comment on that. I don't think it's sort of Case's role to sort of dictate who should be on the community side of events. Obviously, particularly engagement from the neighborhoods, and particularly from the Cambodian Southeast Asian community is really important. Jess, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I don't know if you have any thoughts on that necessarily.
I would say I don't know if I have any thoughts like right now, but I would be willing to work and support pulling together interested folks that are leaders across the community who would really contribute to the planning process and would would be willing to as well. So I can help with that.
That would be greatly appreciated. And I mean, I'd like to call at least another subcommittee on this, maybe in like 2 to 3 weeks, depending on scheduling, to get people back in for a conversation. Because I think with something like this, the more community people and organizations that we can get involved, the better off we'll be to see who's willing to do what. I've spoken to quite a bit. The interest seems like it's there, but it's a matter, again, of bandwidth and what's the best course of action with this. And I really think it'll be huge if we could get a project manager for a project like this. And that way, you'll get, I think, more people involved because a lot of people can't commit for one reason or another. Like you mentioned, LZ. It's challenging to have student participation during those summer months. Refuge Lowell, I'd like, just off the top of the head, there's quite a bit of different art-forward organizations that I'd love to see at least extend an invite to take part of this process. So I think we're all on the same page with a lot of this. I think it's just a matter of streamlining the process and seeing what's going to make sense moving forward. But I appreciate all the constructive input and everybody's willingness to keep the conversation going. So if people don't mind, I'll pass around a sheet. If I can get just an email list to get started, or if you don't mind, maybe submitting it through Case, so that way we can kind of build out an email list when we can get a subcommittee scheduled again for this discussion. We can blast out the email and include anybody that'd like to be included on this for more discussions and try to really see. But hopefully by the time the next subcommittee meets, we could have a couple price points as to look at, so we have a general idea of what are we up against cost-wise for like a project manager for something like this, as well as, I mean, any concerns that the organizations might have when looking at an event like this as well. And I'll see time-wise when I can get the artists that are interested in coming in and get some of their feedback and input, because again, one of the artists is currently doing a music and mural festival, the 17th, 18th, 19th. He's producing it. He's planning it. He's organizing it. So is that a potential opportunity also to bring in not only the artist, but someone that can plan and do all that? I mean, it's just something to consider. Yes, still in Cambodia. Yes. No, he's in Cambodia, and the 17th, 18th, 19th is he's doing the festival at Factory Phnom Penh, and that we played that. That's the clip that you saw earlier. Anything else? Okay, well, thank you all for coming. I greatly appreciate it, and motion adjourned. Thank you.